The wound of conditional safety, when love became something you had to decode, not receive. At its core, compulsive overthinking of texts is not about communication. It is about hypervigilance, born from emotional unpredictability, where connection once felt fragile, conditional, and easily withdrawn. What once protected you from abandonment is now slowly eroding your peace, presence, and self-trust.
It usually happens late at night. The room is quiet. Your phone lights up. A single message, a period instead of a smiley face, a delay that feels 1 minute too long, and suddenly your chest tightens. You reread the message once, twice, 10 times. You analyze the punctuation, the timing, the tone that isn't even there. You imagine what you said wrong, what you should have said differently, what this silence might mean. And what hurts the most is not the message itself, it's the story your mind tells you about your worth in the space between words. You tell yourself you're just being thoughtful, empathetic, emotionally intelligent, but deep down, you know the truth. You are scanning for danger. You are bracing for rejection. You are trying to prevent a loss that already happened once before. Here is the paradox no one tells you. The part of you that learned to overthink texts to stay connected is now the very thing keeping you trapped in anxiety, self-doubt, and emotional exhaustion. What once protected you is now quietly costing you your peace. And the real tragedy? Most people never realize this pattern isn't a personality flaw, it's a survival response.
Overthinking texts lives at the intersection of hypervigilance, attachment trauma, and emotional conditioning. Let's name what's really happening. Hypervigilance. Hypervigilance is a nervous system state where your brain is constantly scanning for subtle threats, not physical danger, relational danger. Tone changes, energy shifts, delays, silences. Your body reacts before your logic can intervene. This develops early, often in environments where love was inconsistent, warm one moment, withdrawn the next. Your nervous system learned. Connection can disappear without warning. Pay attention. Anxious avoidant attachment. Many people who overthink texts oscillate between craving closeness and fearing it. You want reassurance, but asking for it feels risky. So instead, you monitor, interpret, decode. Every message becomes a test. Am I still safe? Am I still wanted? Default mode network overactivation. Neurologically, overthinking texts activates the brain's default mode network, the system responsible for self-referential thought and rumination. When overactive, the DMN creates looping narratives. What did they mean? Did I say too much? What if I ruined everything? The mind fills silence with stories, and those stories are rarely kind. Emotional neglect schema. At the core lies a schema. My emotional needs are too much. So instead of expressing uncertainty directly, you internalize it. You become the translator of other people's moods, the emotional weather reporter. Not because you want control, but because unpredictability once felt unbearable.
There's a quiet grief in this pattern, a grief no one sees, because on the surface, you look functional, attentive, caring. But internally, you are exhausted. Exhausted from rehearsing conversations that haven't happened. Exhausted from replaying messages that cannot be changed. Exhausted from carrying the emotional weight of connections alone. Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This is invisible grief, the grief of authenticity sacrificed for acceptance, the grief of spontaneity replaced by calculation, the grief of presence stolen by anticipation. The core fear beneath it all is simple and devastating, the fear of abandonment, Not always literal abandonment. Sometimes it's emotional withdrawal, coldness, disinterest. So even neutral moments feel loaded. A delayed reply becomes rejection. A short response becomes resentment. A typo becomes proof. You don't experience relationships as they are. You experience them as they could collapse. And slowly, without noticing, life becomes something you monitor instead of live.
These patterns don't disappear with age, they evolve. You might over-explain texts to avoid being misunderstood, apologize for things that require no apology, read emotional subtext where none exists, feel anxious when someone seems off, even briefly. They become adults who, in relationships, chase clarity but fear asking for it, feel responsible for maintaining emotional balance, confuse intensity with intimacy. In career, overanalyze emails from authority figures, fear negative feedback before it exists, tie self-worth to perceived approval. In self-worth, base confidence on responsiveness, feel disposable when ignored, struggle to self-soothe without external validation. In boundaries, stay emotionally available even when depleted, fear being too much if they express needs. In emotional regulation, experience spikes of anxiety triggered by small cues, struggle to calm the body, not the mind. In identity, identify as overthinkers instead of survivors. Mistake coping mechanisms for personality traits. Here is the reframe that changes everything. You are not broken, you are patterned. And patterns can be witnessed, not shamed. Unlearning begins not with control, but with awareness. Not asking, "What's wrong with me?" but asking, "What happened to me?" Healing does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop abandoning yourself to keep others close. Inner child reparenting. Begin by recognizing the younger part of you that learned, "I must stay alert to stay loved." That part doesn't need discipline, it needs reassurance. Speak internally the words you once needed. You don't have to earn connection anymore. Shadow work. Gently explore the belief that your needs are burdensome. That belief is not truth, it is inheritance. Bring it into the light, question it, soften it. Nervous system regulation. Healing happens in the body first. Slow breathing, grounding practices, pausing before rereading the message again. Teach your nervous system silence is not danger. Choosing softness over survival. You don't need to predict abandonment to prevent it. You don't need to decode love to deserve it. As philosopher Rainer Maria Rilke wrote, "Live the questions now." Not every message needs an answer. Not every pause needs a story. The goal is not to be fixed. The goal is to become whole. Whole enough to stay present. Whole enough to trust yourself. Whole enough to let connection be mutual, not managed. If this resonated, it's because part of you is already healing. Share this with someone who lives in their head the way you do. And stay here, because this space is for remembering who you were before survival took over. You don't need to overthink your worth anymore.